Hello there, you're very welcome to Eamonn and the Gaffers on podcast, on YouTube as well, and on Facebook. My gaffer this week, what a guy, what a track record, what a character. He's managed Bristol Rovers, Queen's Park Rangers, Plymouth Argyle, Leicester City, Blackpool, Crystal Palace, Millwall, Queen's Park Rangers again, and now he's in the Sky Bet League 2 with Grimsby. But it's as a player, Ian Holloway, that I want to talk to you about first of all, because as a player, you started at Bristol Rovers, you ended at Bristol Rovers as a player, and you're the only gaffer I've spoken to so far, Ian, who has been a player manager. How much tougher is that?
You can't compare the two, Eamon. Being a manager is tough enough, but a player manager was almost impossible, if I'm being truthful. I did ask one of the greatest ones to ever do it, Kenny Dalglish, how he did it, and he went, it wasn't me, it was everybody else. They just told me to concentrate on playing. But I was a one-man band, really, and player manager, yeah, and I had a player assistant manager in Gary Penrose. He was also player coach, and I had a goalkeeper coach, stroke physiotherapist called Phil Kite, who was my mate as well. So there was three of us juggling jobs, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. There's so much to think about. When you're just playing, you listen to the instructions your manager wants, you agree with him wholeheartedly, go out there and try and do your job and then encourage all the other ones around you. That I found that easy because I'm a people person. But when I was taking the session, trying to train in it, encouraging people, and I had a lot of young players around me at Bristol Rovers, and then I'd have to pick myself above them.
Yeah.
It didn't really work, Eamon. I didn't have that too good a team around me at the time. We had to change things around, but luckily I had my best mate, Gary Penrose, who was still playing, and we managed to get some young strikers. He would coach them, and we did all right for a while, but it was stressful, I have to say that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine on your morning show with your wife that you're also then trying to run everything else through everybody else to make sure it's all on time? You're glad that you got producer, whereas as a player manager, you're also that sort of producer director role as well. It's very, very difficult.
Well, let me ask you then, as a manager, you would also have a captain. Is a captain's role important? Is the captain the manager's representative on the pitch, or is it something different than that?
Absolutely. When you're just a manager, when you're a player manager, and I'm out in the pitch with my captain, I almost undermined it, by shouting encouragement, doing things, because really I should have left that to him. But me being who I am, I'm quite vocal, I'm quite in your face. So I actually think when I was a player manager, it detracted from my captain,
Why didn't you make yourself a captain as well? You were the manager.
I can't possibly be captain as well, can you? Good gracious me, talk about do everything. That's not what. That's why it doesn't really work. I have to say. I found the role a lot easier when I had to stop playing.
Listen, so now the Grimsby project. So there you are, West Country guy. You're now over on the East Coast. What is it about Grimsby? You're sitting, you're halfway on the table. You're a long way. You're 20 points or so off the pace, and you're 20 points off relegation or so, I'm just roughly speaking. So you're probably not going to go up, and you're probably not going to go down. So what is the project? What's the aim for this year?
Well, I can tell you, it wasn't like that when I first walked in the club. We hadn't won for nearly 17 or 18 games, and then that Saturday, the lads managed to win. It was a terrible run to be on. We'd actually spent everything as well. So, we tried to have a good season, and it wasn't working. So I got to be honest, it's a total relief to be where we are right now. It's sort of middle for diddle and not in the, should we go up? Is it unfair that we're not finishing the season? Or, oh dear me, might be going down, And so it's a nice place to have climbed to, but with a further 9 games left, I'd have had a chance to assess the squad properly. I got one lad who I about to let go last week. I haven't even seen train and play because he was injured. And I'm told he's a very, very good player, but I literally haven't seen him. And this is the first time in my career where I can't re-sign anybody. because we don't know when we're playing again in our division. And if we are asked to play behind closed doors in League Two, we'd all go bust, Eamonn. Our weekly intake of money with the crowd coming in and the hospitality suites that we've got upstairs, that's 50% of our budget, which we're not getting at the moment. And if we had to play and have tests, which would be for 9 games, it was an extra £140,000. We were asked to pay that. We got no income. So our only money would have been the solidarity payment coming from Premier League. And to be brutally honest, it looks like they're helping everybody, but they're not helping us at all. We get 8% of whatever they give into that pot. So we need to play games in front of crowds.
Who is the influence, or was there an influence, or does it keep evolving, on you as a manager, as a gaffer? I mean, who did you work? I'm thinking out loud here. I'm taking a punt on this, but I'm thinking of Jerry Francis, right? Two words here, Jerry Francis. And I'm thinking, when you were a player in 86, it all didn't seem to work out at Wimbledon, and you go on and you're transferred for 25 grand. 5-6 years later, your transfer fees £250,000, and Jerry Francis is playing you at QPR, and you're loving it. He seemed to have transformed you as a player, and I just wondered, surely that then must rub off on you as a manager, his philosophy, his style, the way he was doing things.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, Jerry Francis helped me believe in myself and what he taught me about a team and a structure, where you should be, and how you should play a part in getting someone else where they should be, not just blame them for not getting there, being part of it. He did with every one of us. He found like-minded souls who were struggling in their career, brought us in, changed our position. I was struggling as a winger then, but he put me centre midfield. That's where you should play. Go and play in there. He made you believe in yourself, you know, and it was a real bad time for me at that time. I was losing my dad. My dad wasn't very well at all, and Jerry sort of knew that and talked me into coming back to Rovers. He bought me himself with his money. He lent the club the money. So I felt that I had something to repay him, and really his determination and wanting to win really turned my life around at that time. He made me believe that, okay, you failed there, did you? Well, come on, let's put it right. You know, you only learn if you get things wrong, if you're brave enough. So come on, let's do this. And what he did was show me what I was getting wrong. My shoulders were wrong. You can't see him behind you. You're turning to face the ball. Wait a minute, don't show him your number. Twist so you can see him and you can adjust. And so all I wanted was knowledge of how to get better. He was the only manager, and I had 15 before him, who actually taught me what I was getting wrong and how to put it right. And he didn't only do that with me, he did it with goalkeepers, Nigel Martin. He was fantastic with Nigel, right? And he said one day, look, you're getting it wrong, get out of the way. Jerry went in goal and made loads of saves. It was unbelievable, you know, but he was so determined to make a success of himself that he spread that through us like magic. Like,
yeah,
everybody he touched at that time turned into a much better player. And that's what inspired me to try and believe in being one of his disciples and taking it out there onto the pitch to try and become a winner.
Good
And in
man.
the end, we did.
Do you ever, is it like a relationship? I mean, do you fall in love with a club, and then often do you fall out of love? Are there clubs you love, and are there clubs that you end up hating? That's a yes.
Well, you're trying to get me
yes.
to stop. Yeah. All I can say is I've had the same approach the whole time. I can't change who I am. I realised who I am. I realised what made me tick, and then I just wanted to try and find people with a lot more talent than I had and try and rub off on them to teach them about work rate and making yourself a pro. And because that's what I did. I was very limited and I worked very, very hard. And I was determined not to not make it through lack of effort. It had to be a lack of ability if I didn't make it. My dad brought me up that way. So I've tried to find like-minded people. Sometimes it hasn't worked because I am so straight talking. I cannot change. And then if I fall out with someone, I don't then forgive them. And that's why it hasn't gone very well some places, you know. But I suppose I've mellowed a little bit as we go, and I suppose I've learned a lot. And what I'm determined to do is try and not make some of the joys I've had in my career. I don't want to waste them.
Tell me about the joys that you've had. But, you know, if you were, you know, to go into the retirement home now, and you were looking back, what would you actually say did well there?
I've got lots of little flag posts in my life I was determined to do that, and I reached it. You know, the first time I ever played for Bristol Rovers was my dad was there, and he saw it, and I scored, and he was crying, and his mate told me, you know, and I never knew my dad could cry. He never showed me that. So, you know, I got so many, you know, because I was so determined to make it with Bristol Rovers. We got promoted, and a young boy had died, and they gave me his hat. I was his favourite player. So I took it to every single game, and I wore it that night that we beat Bristol City. And you know me, Bristol Rovers, Bristol City, it couldn't have been a better night for me to actually get up when they weren't. So I got too many to mention, but, you know, those two shirts behind me, both of those were at Wembley. And I'd already been to Cardiff and lost. So to go back to a championship final with underdogs, we were both times underdogs, and to win, I never forget that feeling of the final whistle. I never forget going up and getting the medal and seeing the sea of tangerine the first time on that blue and red, very unique palace. And it's not just that day. You remember the build up to it. You remember the characters who were adding little sprinkles of joy and magic as your run was gathering momentum, and Blackpool's just kept building, whereas Palace's, I'd gone there and it was almost dissipating, and we just managed to keep it going and get over the line. You know, it was quite incredible. And Brighton away, someone had left a message for us, all spread it all around the toilet, and they called it Poogate, but it was terrible. You know, Wilf looked at me and went, "Gaffer, that's not right, is it?" I went, "Wilf," I said, "we're better than them. Let's just go out and show it, mate. We wouldn't do that, would we?" He went, "That's disgusting." I said, "Just do what you can." And he scored 2.
Oh, yeah.
And then he got the penalty at Wembley. But it's all the people, Eamonn. What you find is, and you've been spoiled, let's face it, you know. Let's face it, you've been spoiled. You've had the greatest era of one man's management, right? He was determined, Sir Alex Ferguson was determined to make sure that Busby Babes were outdone and remembered for all the right reasons. And he went and did that. He totally spoiled you. So you've seen and lived through all of those marvellous moments where, for people like me, being an underdog, that you got to scrap and you got to fight and you got to do whatever you can. So, you know, the people around me, I made feel like they were invincible. All these moments, even the bad ones, even the terrible ones I've had, I never blame my players for it. I always stood there and took responsibility for it. And then you try and learn. And I tell you, sometimes you feel so battered that you're never going to get your head up again. But I've always found that way to do that.
Yeah.
I hear my mum, I hear my dad in my head, and all sorts of things.
Well, 2 things about that. You think you're never going to lift your head again. Is it a lonely existence? Is it lonelier than being a player, being a gaffer?
Absolutely, yeah. As a player, you'll have a squad of 23, 22 players, whatever it is. You'll have some of them you like. You'll have some of them you probably don't get on with, but you know you need them in your team. So you'll find a way to bring them and try and be part of something. You know, the secret is, and it's very difficult. It's so easy to actually blame someone else and think I did all right, whereas that's really a negative way to live. You have to make sure that you take responsibility for what you've done, what you've said, where you should have been, and then learn from it and move on. And that's the hardest thing in a team sport when you're one of a team. When you get it right, the team take responsibility for every one of each other, and then they do it for you. And that's what Fergie was brilliant at. He would make it so strong. And there's a story that when someone put Governor on their car, he got rid of it. You know, that's probably the best bit of management I've ever seen, where he put the kids in and won it and then carried on with that lot. You know, it's quite amazing. So you have to find your way, you know, and there's always going to be someone new coming in, and you have to adapt. And I think to be the best, that's what you have to do. You have to learn, you know. And if you look at the best at the moment in Klopp and what he's doing, I think he summed it up a few months ago when he said, look, lives are more important than football. And he might not have been able to win this title, but to him, it didn't matter because he cares about people's lives. And you know, and I know that if you can just touch someone's life with a little bit of something to make that day a little bit better, that's what you got to be trying to do. And unfortunately for me, Millwall fans now will be turning this straight off. You'll have none of them watching because I tried my best. I kept them up the first year. The second year, they did a great escape thing. Second year, I got it wrong. I had not enough money to sign not enough players, and the ones I did bring in didn't do it straight away, and I lost my job. So they'll never forgive me for that. So, but such is life, you know. You have to, you have to take that responsibility, Eamonn.
Yeah, and one of the ways you have to take responsibility is that you've got to face the media after a result. Now, I have to say, as a neutral, you're a guy who we look forward to seeing being interviewed. You're incredibly entertaining. You have an answer. As you say, sometimes you got to raise your head. Was that a deliberate ploy, or is that just you, what comes out? I mean, you're like a poet.
No, I'm nothing like a poet. What I am is I need to be able to laugh to get through my life. I was brought up with saying, look, don't ever be too serious about yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever you do, you can't be like that. You got to make sure you laugh things off. Now, my wife who sat over there, I hope she don't chirp in now. If I'm doing some things that I think I should do better, I am hideous. It's got to go right. And I'm terribly self-critical. And then I'll start swearing, you know, because I could swear for England. If there was an England team, I'd swear, and I'd swear I could be in it. But I'm not proud of that. What I do, I get carried away, and I'm never kind to myself. I wish I could be on myself like I am my players, you know, because I've never criticised them. I don't do that. It's all about trying to be constructive.
The thing is, whether you're Sir Alex Ferguson, whether you're Ian Holloway, whether you're me, if you're in the public eye, a lot of people think they can do your job, right? So what is it like? And what would you say? Can anybody do your job? Or what would you like to say that it is that makes you different? You're not doing another job. You're not out there, you know, in the real world. You're doing this incredibly pressurized job, but everybody's an expert on what you do.
Yeah, they got a benefit of one thing that you haven't. They judge you after they've seen your team just play. So they got a benefit of hindsight. And now every clever Tom, Dick and Harry in the world, you shouldn't have done that because you've witnessed it first. We've got to guess what it's going to go like, work out what they're going to do, and then try and encourage them to do it. If you could pick a team, watch the game, see the result, go back and redo it, we'd all be millionaires, wouldn't we? Well, unfortunately, as a manager, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You know?
If you weren't a manager, what would you be, do you think?
Oh, I'd be even more annoying for my wife, I could tell you. Because I think I know everything anyway. With my lack of patience, Eamonn, I really do think I'd struggle listening to someone else. And I was a great team member where I wanted to get better.
Yeah.
And I never really gave up, ever. I would keep running. I would keep doing it. I honestly don't know. If you're asking me interests, I loved woodwork at school. And I love woodwork now.
You could be a joiner then.
Yeah. I would like the fancy side of it, but no one likes brown furniture anymore, do they? So I'd probably be out of work.
But even in lockdown, you know, a lot of people revisit their lives and they think, you know, things are going to be different after this. You've had a good, 10 weeks or so to, away from the game to reflect on things. I mean, what do you think? Has it all been football to you, thinking about how you're going to come back stronger, better, different, what you're going to do with Grimsby? Or is there something else that's crept into your life and said, look, I'm going to learn a new hobby or do something, whatever?
Yeah, I can't stand still, no matter what.
Yeah.
Before I got the Grimsby job, I was going to a gym every day. I wanted to be a bodybuilder. Now you can't go to gyms. I didn't get any weights here, so.
Are you serious? You're saying that you're there? You're no spring chicken with the best will in the world. You're in your 50s, and in your 50s, you actually wanted to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah, yeah, I want to be able to deal with my body weight.
Wow.
You know, so I can pick myself up and move myself around. And
I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try that.
Go on.
Oh, gee.
Go on. I've never done deadlifting and that. My son taught me how to do it. I went to this gym and, you know, I could lift up almost double my own body weight.
Wow.
By the time. And then this lockdown has stopped all that. So I've been doing little bits, but nowhere near it. I want to be able to, as you get older, ages are quite a frightening thing. It doesn't give you any respect. It just smashes you everywhere, you know, and I don't want to be rely on anyone else. And I want to make sure I can handle my body weight for my whole life and keep moving. And, you know, I don't want a long life, Eamonn. I want a full life, you know. So, and I believe totally, if you don't use something, you will lose it. So I want to prevent all of that.
We're talking there about everybody being an expert on your job or my job or whatever. But let's us now. Are you for or against a project restart, whether it's in the Premier League or the EFL?
I am all for football should start when crowds can go back. Let's face it.
So that's not that'll be nothing then until August, September, October, maybe longer than that.
Yeah, can I put a caveat to that and say why? I think it's really important. I have had some wonderful letters from people in Grimsby saying, please don't let us play behind closed doors. So I was on the phone to one of them and he went, I said, why is that? He went, well, I haven't missed a home game for 25 years. Every day, every time we are playing, I don't want to be shut out now. Please don't let us play behind closed doors. So he has a point, you know, and let's be fair. I haven't watched the Germans do this because I find their football quite boring anyway. I only like all our divisions. I find them really fascinating, really interesting. So I don't really bother with Champions League that much. And I can't understand how something that is wonderfully buoyant can't look after itself correctly. If we're a pyramid and you got the Premier League, who very wrongly, in my opinion, moved away from the English Football League and said we're going to be the Premier League, I'd have never let them do that. You know, I'd have kept hold of them. Hang on a minute. Because you need governance over football, right? And then we could have looked after every level. The game is so special. It teaches you so much about who you should be, teaches you how to lose, how to draw, how to win, and be humble. And it belongs to everybody now. Ladies, men, granddads, grands. And that's where we all got it from. It's a part of being a society and being in a tribe. That's what it's all about. And that needs to sustain itself for generations to come, in my opinion.
And you could feel that everywhere you've been. You could feel that at Bristol. You could feel it at QPR. You could feel that at Palace. You could feel it at Leicester. Could you feel that, what it means to people?
Absolutely. I felt it at Millwall, every single place. Plymouth, every single one of them is unique, right? So we've got to try and keep that uniqueness, but make sure it's going to survive, because your community without that link, we will lose who we are, in my opinion. Now, I'm saying that from the lowest I've been, which is in the second division, right? I'm starting at the bottom because it feels so real.
Yeah.
And what it means to people, Eamonn. So I want to make sure the game, more than ever, is sustainable for the future. And our country, we love it so much. We love our non-league. We love whoever it is, you know?
Yeah, we're talking about Premier League and we're talking about EFL there, whatever. But when you look at international football and the Euros and the World Cup to come and squeezing fixtures in and the way things are going to change, whether we have crowds or don't have crowds for the next year, do you think there will be casualties? You know, for instance, let's take the League Cup. Let's take internationals, the Euros, for an example. Surely they can't fit it all in a game.
No, I think we will lose certain things, you know. I'd like to think about a reset button. Sometimes you get these wonderful gadgets that we're all on right now, you know, and I find them incredibly tough. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, but if it's going wrong, you turn it off and then you turn it on again, and normally it'll reboot. You know,
Yes.
I think football could really do with that. To be
Yeah.
honest, I really do think that they need to.
So, well, like a sort out, a sort
Yeah.
of, yeah, what, yeah, okay.
We've lost Berry. You know, they've gone to put. So we're not 92 league. You know, we're 72. We're only 71 now. You know, and we've lost the top 20, which I still think is a terrible mistake. You know, when something's that big a deal and it gets that much sponsorship, then that sponsorship should be controlled, not by the clubs itself. That's not right. That there should have been people monitoring it and taking over, and the government should step in now. We're having a laugh right now. We're waiting for the government to tell us what to do in football to keep us all safe, but we didn't wait to stop playing. The EFL told us to stop playing, not the government. Horse racing was still carrying on. We could have played that Saturday. We'd have got 2 more games done if we'd have waited till the government's decision. So how can the EFL step in before that? And now why are they waiting for the government? So, you know, there's an awful lot to ponder about football, but really there should be some very, very clever people put in charge of telling these owners what they should do. I'm worried long-term about football because Americans, Russians,
Middle East
yeah. Owners are taking over our big clubs. So they are the ones dictating to us on our soil what we're doing.
Okay.
Worries me.
As I say goodbye to you, Ian, and it's been an absolute joy talking to you. I want to ask you, you know, through it all the clubs you've played for, all the clubs you've managed, one of the great characters of the game, and so obvious to see your passion there. How would you like people, when you step away from all of this, how would you like people to remember you, or what way they would think of you?
I just hope that I have brought a little bit of sparkle to some people's lives, whether it be through me laughing sometimes because I found something funny. You know, when I was at Plymouth, we had some crazy things happen. You know, our whole pre-season tour was paid for by Real Madrid because we booked their hotel that they wanted to use at the same time. So they said to us, will you move to this one? It was just as good a hotel, and we'll play a friendly against you. And so we got £30,000 out of them. And someone asked me a question, Eamonn, how do you feel about that? So I fell off my chair because that's how I felt. You know what I mean?
Up the Argyle.
Yeah, come on. Mighty Green Army. But, you know, you wouldn't believe it, would you? And Capello was in charge of them at that time, and he spoke to me. Yeah, he said, get out of the way. This is me. I could tell you so many wonderful stories, but the thing I live for are people like DJ Campbell or Keith Southern, or, you know, a lot of the people I had at Blackpool who I saw change. Yeah. I saw start to believe in themselves, and I saw some unbelievable things come out of them. And I'm going to go back and finish. Best manager of my lifetime generation has been Sir Alex Ferguson by a mile. I've read a lot of his books, and one of them he said, I am so lucky because Mark Hughes and people like that goal he scored in that final to get a replay, that volley, it was all over, but I still hoped and believed he might show me that one special thing. Yeah. And he said, how many players have I had that have done that for me? And he's absolutely right. So that's all I hope. I hope that somebody listened to one thing I said and it made their life a little bit better. If I haven't, and it's gone the other way, I'm sorry. I'm like Marmite. So I do apologize.
Well, it's been lovely talking to you. Lovely getting into your home and hearing your views, Ian. But in the words of Fabio Capello, get out of the way. We're done. Okay. All the best. Thank you very much indeed. The legend that is Ian Holloway. This is available on Facebook. It's available on YouTube, and it's available wherever you get your podcasts. Eamonn and the Gaffers with Ian Holloway. Thank you.